All right, are you guys ready?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so my name is Jamie. I am the Privileged Campus Advocate with Shelter from the Storm. We're partnering with Title IX, EOU, to have a confidential advocate here on campus. This is my coworker Candy. She is our DHS co-located advocate. I will start this out with, this is my first presentation, so it's probably going to be a little jumbled. But I will start with a little bit of history about Shelter from the Storm. So we were created in 1979 by a group of women from, I believe it was Union County, Baker County, and Wallowa County, just to kind of come together and help people who are dealing with domestic violence. At that time, we didn't actually have a safe house or anything like that, so they were actually having these survivors stay in their homes with them. We did eventually end up getting our safe house though, so don't do that anymore. And then we have advocates that are in varieties of different roles. There's me, I'm the EOU co-located advocate. So I'm 50% of the time here, 50% of the time out at our main office, which is in Island City. And then we have Candy, who is, like I said, our DHS co-located, and she's 50% of the time up there, 50% of the time at our main office. We have our air advocate, which is that person works with law enforcement. We have a couple of different SART advocates, and our programs director and our executive director, and hiring more advocates as we go, as we get more funding. So this next one is just kind of explaining what privilege is, because me being called the Privileged Campus Advocate, it means that I am not a mandatory reporter. I am allowed to be completely confidential. I have legal privileges, so our confidentiality is protected by law. And I'm so sorry, my brain stopped working for a second.
Well, we interrupted you.
But our confidentiality is protected by law, and in order for us to speak with anyone other than the survivor or anyone else out at shelter, we have to have a signed time-limited release. That way, it says exactly what we're able to say, to exactly who we're able to say it to, and how long it's valid for. And at any point, we can have survivors just call and be like, hey, I don't want this release there anymore. Then we can no longer speak with anybody about anything to do with that person. We don't even acknowledge that we were working with the person.
And I think a lot of times people get confused with privilege compared to what's called a mandatory reporter. And that's kind of the difference, is what she's saying.
Yeah. We were considered mandatory non-reporters, basically. And then this one is just kind of going into what the Privileged Campus Advocate does. So my main goal is to work with students, faculty, staff, whoever on EOU's campus to work towards preventing at some point sexual assault, sexual violence, dating violence, domestic violence, stalking, harassment, and things like that. Yes.
So part of the role is making sure that we are creating awareness, right? So folks know where to go in the event there is a problem, whether it's them as the victim themselves or somebody that's helping them. So it's about awareness,
Yes.
and that's what we try to unfold. Prevention is part of awareness, right? They go hand in hand. So people don't always think of prevention as awareness, right? But it is critical to the work that we do, that people know where to go if they need help or who to contact if they can't remember
Yep.
who to contact, right? Especially on the EOU campus, so.
Yeah, we always hope that we never have to see a student. That's literally our true hope, but
Mhm.
we want students to know that that's a place that's safe for them to go to in case something unfortunately does happen.
So they pretty much covered the gist of it, but
We got you, girl.
so we work with pretty much everybody who's dealing with intimate partner violence. I'm not required to report to Title IX, so like I said, that there's that privilege that's part of my title. And then I can work with Title IX with the survivor's permission, and like I said, the signed limited time release, in order to help facilitate in getting more things done. So if they need to move housing, I could get a release to talk with Colleen, and then I could go with them and help advocate for them if they're not comfortable talking about all of it by themselves.
And if I can say, when it occurs in that fashion, I don't ask questions. I trust the privileged campus advocate. I know there must be a Title IX something going on, right? So that's all that I need to know. And they only give out the information that the victim is wanting them to give out. So if they don't give, well, they have to give me the name if we're trying to move something or change things for them. Yeah, and even if they give us the name of the responding party or the alleged perpetrator, I still don't do anything with those numbers, I mean, with that information, unless I hear from the victim themselves, right? So it's about safety, it's about the desire of the person that's asking for help as to what it is they want to have happen, so.
Yeah, typically when we do the releases, we just have people allow us to give, their name, however they want to be contacted, and whether or not it's safe for them to be contacted. That way, if they're wanting to share or if they're wanting accompaniment to share what the situation is, that's wholeheartedly their thing. That's what they want to do. But unless they ask us to specifically share, we feel as though it is not our place.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I work with students and other folks from sensitive, well, not sensitive, folks who might not have the same citizenship status as others. And I just wanted to know what kind of information I can pass on to those folks to assure them that none of that information will be disclosed or that they are completely safe from any individual outside of.
Yeah, so with not just me, but everybody at Shelter from the Storm, like I said, we are mandatory non-reporters, so we don't report anything at all. If they have a different immigration status, we still don't report anything. We only share what the survivor is comfortable with us sharing.
It would literally be illegal for us to share the information. We could be tried and convicted
Yep.
in a court of law. So,
Yep, our confidentiality and our privilege is protected by law. Yes.
If I can add that same is true. It doesn't matter their status.
Mhm.
A student is a student, right? An employee is an employee. So we do the same. It's whatever they're wanting. We provide resources and help them to understand what is available to them, and they make the choice.
Yep, our services with Shelter from the Storm are completely survivor-led. So if we start the process with a community partner and they decide they don't want to do it anymore, okay, we're done. We step back. We're no longer going to push that. We're just going to leave it be. Oh, it's on there as well. And with having the release for me to be able to work with Title IX and with Colleen or any of the other staff or faculty on campus, it just helps further what I'm able to help with. what I'm able to help with on campus, it can be kind of limited depending on what it is, just because I'm a partner and I'm not employed. So I would try and, get other parties involved to make that easier. Yes.
For our online students who might be watching from online, do they have some of those same rights? So even though they're not physically located on campus, would they still be entitled to some support from Shelter from the Storm
Yes.
and from Colleen as well?
Absolutely.
And with Shelter from the Storm, as long as they're in Union County, we're able to help. We do have our 24-hour crisis hotline that anyone from anywhere can call at any time because it's completely free. It's anonymous. You don't have to share who you are at all when you're calling. It's just for us to be able to offer certain services. Our grants will only allow us to help people who are in Union County.
And for Title IX, on campus, I serve all students. So doesn't matter where they are. We can talk to them. We can get them resources. We can help them. We can get them, try to help them get to a resource in their area. So yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're on campus or online.
I will say though, with Shelter from the Storm side, we do have a list of other like domestic violence, sexual assault shelters and programs in Oregon. So we would at least be able to get them in contact with somebody in their area, hopefully. And with their permission, we could call around for them to see if there's services they would be able to have. And then we've got a definition of what domestic violence is. Abuse between family or household members, between partners in a dating relationship. And then, so it says it's also called intimate partner violence, but it is a pattern of behavior used by one partner to maintain power and control over another partner in an intimate relationship. We have a bunch of different resources that we're able to offer people in helping recognize, what kind of situation they're in, and helping them recognize the power and control that is happening in this relationship. And we see all different kinds of abuse, and a lot of times people don't think it's abuse because, oh, well, he never hit me. Okay, however, there's the, physical, emotional, sexual, financial, I've got all of them listed up there, the reproductive, digital, verbal, intimidation, coercion, threats, isolation, and it continues. There's so many different kinds that it all fits nice and neat into the definition of intimate partner violence regardless, which is why we're able to assist. Unfortunately, we're not able to assist with familial things specifically, but we are able to help people with like restraining orders and things like that, even if it is still familial.
I think a big part of it is, like you're talking, oh, sorry.
Thank you. It's on.
I think a big part of it we're talking about too is that, like how Colleen said about education, awareness. I think education's part of that, and education, I believe, contributes to prevention. So if they're going through familial abuse, which happens quite often, it's still, I feel like it's still a responsibility of ours to educate and provide them like some kind of resource so they can still kind of recognize and know what it is. But sometimes our grants financially perhaps couldn't help them financially, but we would never turn away a survivor without educating them or giving some kind of safety plan or resource. And then just so y'all know that we are a very inclusive agency as well. A lot of people, unfortunately through history, have kind of associated domestic violence with as being a female issue. And we happen to know that it's not. It's a human issue. Men, other folks who identify as other genders, everybody experiences violence. We just want people to know that you can come through our door, that we're never going to turn you away, regardless of your gender, how you identify, anything like that, your sexual orientation. We are here to help everybody.
Exactly. I was going to add something to that and I completely forgot.
Okay.
But we, like Candy said, we help regardless, and if we aren't able to financially assist, we do our best to find other resources that may be able to assist in whatever situation it is. So if we cannot do what needs to be done, we will try our best to help find who can. And then the sexual assault definition. Sexual assault refers to sexual contact or behavior that occurs without explicit consent of the victim. Some forms of sexual assault are attempted rape, fondling or unwanted sexual touching, forcing a victim to perform sexual acts such as oral sex or penetrating the perpetrator's body, penetration of victim's body, also known as rape. These can be very sensitive subjects. I completely forgot at the very beginning to give everybody a trigger warning. If you need to step out at any point, feel free to just step out. If you need to talk, Candy here can always step out with you and talk. But we actually at Shelter from the Storm are the only domestic violence sexual assault advocacy center in, I believe, Central and Eastern Oregon that has our own exam room on site. So survivors of sexual assault don't have to go to the hospital. We're partnered with a SANE nurse, which is sexual assault nurse examiner, and she comes in and is able to do the exam in our office where it's more secluded and more personal, more private. But we're partnered with her so that way, like I said, they don't have to go to the hospital, because going to the hospital for that kind of exam can be even more traumatizing. So we like to try and keep it as trauma-informed as we possibly can, but we are incredibly lucky to have our SANE nurse and our exam room. Because like I said, I think we're the only ones in Central and Eastern Oregon. We may be the only ones in most of Oregon. That I'm looking into, I'm not positive. And then stalking, a pattern of behaviors done by one or more or several people to alarm, frighten, control, pursue, or terrorize another person. It's legally defined as repeated unwanted contact, contacting that is alarming to the person experiencing it. These ones, I did the definitions of them just because they're typically the most common things that we see is the domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. They're just the ones we see most common, so that way people have a good idea of kind of what to be looking for, not just with yourself, but with friends, family, teachers, coworkers, anything. And then this is just a list of our services. We have crisis intervention, support services. We have our 24-hour hotline, which we typically have one of our advocates on that phone. We do occasionally have volunteers who are able to take it, but everybody who's on that phone is completely trained and understands, what people are calling for. So I would say everybody that we have on our hotline is absolutely capable. We're able to do safety planning, emotional support, emergency shelter when it's necessary. And then we are part of the sexual assault response team in Union County. Like I said, we have our own exam room. And then I'm able to help with Title IX support. Plus we have a plethora of community resources, information, community partnerships, so we're able to refer these people more easily. We try and figure out who our main point of contact would be before we have to send these people to these different places. That way, it's not like, oh, this person, this person, this person, and this survivor's being bounced around. Yes.
And you mentioned training, and I
Mhm.
did want to share that at Eastern Oregon University, all of, myself as the Title IX coordinator, as well as our deputy Title IX coordinators, are all certified through NACUA, which is the National Association of College University Attorneys. So we are trained, and we are required by law to go through annual trainings just as refreshers, not with NACUA, but with any of our other groups. We're refreshed every year. So just to share that.
On those lines, I will say that everybody at Shelter from the Storm also goes through refresher courses for everything each year, and we are continually going to new trainings, new conferences, anything and everything for us to be prepared for what happens next, because everything is changing so quickly. So we are continually making an effort to learn, you know, what's happening. That way we're prepared. Another thing, we're able to accompany people to the hospital, police station, and court. We do assistance with protective orders, so restraining orders. Well, what people typically think of as a restraining order is the Family Abuse Prevention Act. We help with all kinds of different restraining orders, not just ones relating to intimate partner violence. We can also help with stalking orders and different things like that. We also do basically every kind of protective order. It's the Elderly Persons or Persons with Disabilities Protection Act.
Yeah, and the Title IX office can assist with a lot of that. Now, one thing that does happen quite often is I can issue a no contact order, but that is for the campus community or only, or if there's an event that is sponsored by the university and is held somewhere else, it does apply. So if it is off campus, like at a game or something to that effect, and a no contact order has been issued, it is indicated in there that it's, while we have control over the venue, it applies. So what we do though is only really for the university itself. So when I work with students or employees that are needing additional information, I will refer them to shelter and or help them through the other processes that you've identified.
Absolutely. That is good to know. I actually did not know about the no contact order on campus, so we're all learning today.
There you go.
So we can help with legal representation when our funding allows. I know that our grant that we had that coming out of ran out, and we have not been able to get a new one since. But when we do have the funding, we will help, if not completely pay for attorney fees, depending on the situation. And like I said, whether or not we have the funding. We're able to occasionally help with transportation. We have our food bank, and we have a shed that is completely full of clothes for survivors to just come in and get what they need.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
And you mentioned survivors, so I've worked with students before who might not be currently experiencing domestic violence, but they've had that in their recent history. Would it be appropriate in that case to say, yeah, I know of a really great resource where you could definitely pick up some clothing? Is it still appropriate even if it's not currently taking place?
Absolutely. So a lot of the times I guess not a lot of the times, but we do occasionally have survivors come in who they're not currently dealing with any sort of IPV. However, they were re-triggered by something that happened, we also work with them. Or even if they haven't been re-triggered, we're more than willing to meet with survivors on whatever level that they're on, because healing isn't exactly linear. So it could have happened 20 years ago and it still feels like you went through it yesterday. So if we're able to help, we absolutely will.
Yeah, and the same is true here at EOU. If someone gets triggered, it doesn't, the event doesn't have to have happened yesterday, right? Like you said, it could happen a long time ago and something happens, and we can work with the students and employees about what is it that they need, what helps them to be safe. Our objective is for students to have an educational opportunity. And sometimes these things that come up for them prevent them from being successful a certain term. And so we can work with them on how can we help them to be successful. So there are a lot of different things that we can do to help with that regard.
So along the lines of helping in general, we were talking about the emergency food and clothing assistance. Is that something, if people wanted to donate, do you all take donations? How does that side of things work?
So with donations, I think the only thing we're not taking donations on right this second, because our shed is an absolute disaster, is clothing. However, depending on the clothing, we're always taking it. So like little kids' clothes, men's clothes, we're always accepting that because that's what we typically have the least amount of, but there's still the need for it. But we accept donations of pretty much anything, as long as it's not like used underwear or half-used shampoo bottles, things like that. But you would just, most of the time our doors are unlocked out at our main office. You would just bring it in. If you're not sure, call ahead, and then we can get whoever's bringing it in a receipt. Because we are a nonprofit, all donations are tax deductible, but you would just bring it in anytime between 8 a.m. to noon, and then 1 p.m. to 4 when our office hours are, and it's pretty simple. We just ask people not to leave things overnight because we had a big issue with that. But our food bank, the emergency food, we actually work with Community Connections, their food bank, and so they do monthly deliveries to us. So our food bank isn't just specifically for our clients, for survivors. It's open to the public 3 days a week from so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 1 to 4. And people would just come in, fill out a half sheet, and we get boxes put together for them. When we have funding available, we do a transitional housing program, which we work with our client to get them connected to outside resources. That way they can get into a place. Once they're into a place, we're able to help with so much of their rent and utilities for 6 months. So that way they have that time to put whatever money they would be putting towards rent aside, so they can help get themselves more situated, so they can help get a car. They can help put a down payment on, somewhere else, anything. And then we do have support groups. We haven't had them for a while. However, I am working on getting support groups. Okay. I am working on getting support groups at EOU started up this month. So we're actually going to have a women's group, men's group, and LGBTQIA+ group. That way, everyone can pick whatever group they want to be a part of. And we keep the location completely confidential. You would just RSVP through me, and then I would let you know what the location is the day of the event. But at some point, if people are comfortable with it, we could end up mingling all of the support groups. I just know that some people aren't very comfortable with opposite genders or anything like that with certain situations.
Yeah, so I'll get that information to you.
Thank you, Colleen.
Where they are.
Okay. I was looking at Colleen. I'm like, did we get confirmation? Okay. So we definitely have support groups starting at EOU this month. I believe 26th, 27th, and 28th. And then I will get that information. We'll work on getting that information sent out to everybody. But we do prevention education and awareness. We can do professional trainings, which we can do community awareness trainings and things like that, which, if I remember right, we do give people certificates at the end of. We also do, it's just kind of general domestic violence, sexual assault, strangulation, things like that. Training on what to look for and how to approach the different situations. And then we always have some sort of volunteering opportunities. We don't typically have volunteers working with survivors specifically, just because there is a lot of training that is involved in that. But we don't typically have people working with survivors because there's a lot of training involved in that. But we always have opportunities for people to come out and help out around the office doing anything and everything.
As far as the professional training, other part of my job is community advocacy, and I go out in the community. I've talked to CCNO, Community Connections, North Oregon Housing Authority, the police station, the judicial courts. I would love to do one on EOU's campus with the faculty. It's called DB 101. It's an all day, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. kind of thing with some breaks in there. So it's something that Shelter from the Storm and myself have developed. It's a pretty in-depth look at the basics of domestic violence is, and we kind of umbrella a lot of things under that, from elderly abuse to sexual assault to stalking, human trafficking, all that. So that's something I would be more than willing to come and do. And then I know Jamie mentioned volunteer opportunities. Around in front of everybody, there's a little like tri-folded brochure that talks about our volunteering opportunities. So, you know, and we do generally do a background check on our volunteers, just because the sensitive nature that we have out there with our survivors, regardless of what you're doing, we do run a background check just so you know that in advance. It doesn't mean that you're going to be necessarily, like, if there's something on your record, isn't going to negate you from being a volunteer. It just depends on what it is and how recent it was, just so you know that, okay?
I will say that we also, whenever we do have volunteers, we also have them sign an NDA or non-disclosure agreement, just in case they do happen to hear something when a survivor comes in, or if the advocates are discussing things privately, if they happen to overhear something, we make sure that, you know, they understand that everything that is said or happens out at our office is completely confidential. And like we said earlier, it is protected by law, so we can be charged criminally if we were to break that confidentiality. So emotional support, it doesn't always look the same for everybody, but it can be anything from just somewhere that you can feel comfortable asking questions, someone to talk to, someone to bounce off ideas off of, even just helping organize your thoughts and figuring out where you need to go next, what you need to do. And like I said, I can accompany to all kinds of different meetings, appointments, anything that, you know, the person needs to be able to try and get through this. We are also, some of us are also trained in QPR, which is
Question, persuade, respond.
Oh, okay. Question, persuade, respond. It's suicide prevention training. Not everybody has gone through it yet. We are in the process of getting everybody, all of our advocates and everyone staffed with us through it, but most of us are already trained with it. And then we can do safety planning. Safety planning it can be very in-depth or it can be very generic, whatever the survivor is needing or more comfortable with or wanting. But just simply Googling what's a good safety plan does not work. Safety plans don't work the same one doesn't work for everybody. So mine is going to be very different from Candy's. We have different lives, we're different people, we have different situations. It just depends on what the survivor needs and what they feel is best for them. So education, information, we host awareness events. I can do classroom drop-ins. I've been doing tabling, like different tabling events. I'm sure some of you have seen me in Hoke. I have lots of goodies if anyone wants to come say hi next time. We offer trainings, and then, like I said, so the research and connecting resources, if we cannot help or if we can but not to the extent that's needed, we will do our best to find who can. And then, so with navigating the different systems, like I said before, I can help with all kinds of different protective orders, and then help through the process with Title IX if they're wanting to go through the Title IX process. I can help with law enforcement, assist with making reports, and even just accompany them, even if they just want an additional person with them and not have me talk to anybody. I can just be that emotional support human. That's what I call my husband. He's my emotional support human. And then any of us at the office can attend court with survivors for restraining orders, trials, hearings, things like that. And then when should someone access the PCA? If they aren't sure exactly what services they need, if they don't want to make a report but they want to know what some of their options are, I am more than willing to, even if I have to tell somebody, hey, listen, I don't know, I am more than willing to try and find out where I need to go. And whenever I'm calling around to people, Candy.
Oh, sorry.
But whenever I'm calling around to people to figure out like where somebody needs to go or where I need to take them, send them, whatever, I keep things very basic. I do not share any of the situation, so they're not able to connect the dots of, oh, I heard from this person and this person, this person. So we try and keep it very, very generic and very hypothetical.
This is really a question for Colleen. As an employee or as a faculty member or even as a peer mentor, what is our responsibility when somebody comes to us and says, I've been sexually assaulted, or I'm experiencing stalking, even if they say, don't disclose this?
Thank you for asking the question. Excuse me. All employees at Eastern Oregon University are what we call responsible employees. They are required by federal Title IX law to report the information to the Title IX coordinator. So that means all the information. So the name of the individual or individuals. What we do ask is that you are aware that you are a responsible employee and that you share that information with the individual that is talking to you and letting them know that you are required. So, you say, before you move on, I need to share with you that I'm a responsible employee. This means that I am required to share this information with the Title IX coordinator. I'm happy to go with you if you'd like, but everything you share with me is what I have to tell the Title IX coordinator. So really, the less you know, the better off you are and they are if they don't want it to be shared. Now, when they do come to me, again, we're a victim-centered campus, which means we do, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, what the victim is requesting. There are several cases, if there's a weapon involved, including strangulation, we move forward. As a Title IX coordinator, I will move forward on that because that's a very violent crime. There's potential for the loss of life. And so a weapon, strangulation, if there appears to be a repeat offender, like, I'm aware, I've heard this name before, then that is a consideration that I will take and move forward potentially, but I will always connect with the victims prior to doing that and make sure they understand why. I will say that I have never had to do that. So we work real close with the students and employees. So if you're not sure, just call and ask. Send an email. Hey, this is what's happening. What do I do? And then I'm happy to work. They don't have to come to me. I can go to them, right? So wherever they might be, wherever you are, I'm happy to do that. But as employees, you are responsible employees, which means you have to report to Title IX.
And does that include the peer mentors?
I'm not sure we've made that determination yet, but it is certainly something that you could practice because you really want to give it to somebody else, right? We don't want you to have to hold this information and then that starts to cause you harm, and therefore your educational opportunity could become, I can't think of the word, it would become a problem for you, right? You start to lose sleep. You start, right? We don't want you to have that burden. So please send it our way, right? You could act as a responsible employee, but I'm not sure that we've made that determination. It's something that we might look into because we are working on a campus-wide mentor program. So possibly. Yeah.
I do know along the lines of what Colleen was just saying of if you are not specifically trained to deal with the situation, it is always best to try and find whoever you can who is, because there is such a thing as vicarious trauma. If you aren't specifically trained on how to handle vicarious trauma, it genuinely feels as though whatever it was happened to you. And in your brain, it did. So you can end up with secondhand PTSD. And, you know, years down the road, wonder, okay, why did that trigger me? Well, here you go.
One of the things I will share that if anyone does report, then I do a follow-up with that individual, right? How are you doing? Making sure that everything's okay with the person that did do the reporting, because it is hard for them. So yeah, and if it's a faculty member and they contact me and say, hey, blah, 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 they'll give me the information, but I will wait if they have not told the individual that they have to report it. So I give them that time to make sure that the victim or the reporting party is aware that I will be contacting them.
Okay, so this slide is pretty much just kind of what to look for in, like I said before, your coworkers, friends, family, students, teachers, whatever. Absolutely be looking for different behaviors, things that aren't common for them, being more depressed, anxious, anything that's PTSD related symptoms, anything like that, negative changes in moods, negative reactions to certain things, being more withdrawn, having a hard time keeping up with close relationships, or just general lack of interest and low self-esteem, isolating themselves if they're spacing out a lot, disassociating, and if they have a change in diet, their sleep habits, if they've told you about, you know, their sleep is worsening, they haven't slept in a few days, maybe kind of refer them to, you know, even Colleen or I, and maybe, or the counseling center even. So can try and get to the bottom of like what's going on. That way they're not just continuing to struggle and keep things internal. And then if you've noticed substance abuse or substance use that isn't, you know, their typical behavior, and if they're missing important meetings or events that you know they would typically attend. And on the topic of what Kate had asked, This is the typical thing of, like I said, it's not one size fits all. It doesn't work for everybody, but this is typically what we ask that even just bystanders would do. So the number one thing is to make sure that they're safe. If they're not safe, get them somewhere safe, and then you can work through the rest of the process. Always, always, always believe. Start with belief. Even if it is the most far-fetched story you've ever heard, acknowledge it, because to them it's real. Always start out with belief. Validate what they're going through, and then with having resources and information handy, that was not a word, but it is today. But with having information and resources handy, it doesn't mean, oh, have all of these pamphlets memorized or have these ready to hand to them. With that, it's just know who you need to contact in order to get this person what they need. So in this sense, it would be Title IX or the PCA or Shelter from the Storm. When in doubt, Shelter from the Storm's emergency line or our main office, call us and ask. We love questions. We adore questions. I know everybody says there's no such thing as a stupid question. You should hear some of the ones we've heard a lot lately. There is no such thing as a stupid question. We will answer every single question with the same sincerity, because, you know, maybe we didn't know before you asked. Now we do. So be a support. Do not let them go through it alone. You don't have to, it doesn't have to specifically be that you that supports this person. If, say, the person does want to go to Title IX and is just dealing with Colleen, you can always let the person know that the PCA is also an option. That way they do have a support person who they can vent to. That, you know, I can just attend anything with them and we can work together on it. When they're ready to, offer to accompany them through the next steps. That's not, you don't specifically have to do that, but if they are comfortable with you and you are okay with it, absolutely. Because if you're their comfort person that they chose and you're more than willing to be that person for them, go for it. That way they're not having to do this alone, because that can be just as traumatizing. If you're not aware of the situation or have a suspicion, just refer them to the Privileged Campus Advocate, because as I've said multiple times by now, we're completely confidential. So we don't report anything. Do not ask for details. Like Colleen said, if they don't go into detail about any of it with you, do not ask details, because the more you know, the more you have to report about. So if they're not sharing, don't push. Okay, I am almost done. I will hurry through the rest of this. Just know the right people to report it to. If you're not sure if it's something you need to report, you can always reach out to Colleen and ask, or reach out to me and ask, and we will get you pointed in the right direction. And then try and provide them with the proper handoff if you can. Accompany them to who they need to see, or, I mean, even just staying with them while they make the phone call to make the appointment of who they need to speak with. This I've already talked about a lot of, if we can't help, we'll find the right people who can.
I also want to share, we do have a partner on campus, actually, who's employed by the Multicultural Center. We do have a resource advocate. So just one more person on campus who maybe you have a better connection with the Multicultural Center, maybe you've worked with one of us before, and we are absolutely willing to be that connector as well.
Absolutely. If you could, do you want to send me that person's information so I can get in contact with them? Okay.
So we're running out of time, but I do want to share where we're located and how you can get information. So the Privileged Campus Advocate is located in the library, room 120.
Yes.
And the Title IX coordinator, myself, is I'm located in Hope 216. If you can't remember all of that, if you just go to the EOU's homepage,
and you type in Title IX, that's TITLE1IX, lowercase, after the eou.edu, you'll find us, and all that information, everything that's been shared today, is on that website. So, or you can email advocate@eou.edu. It goes directly to the Privileged Campus Advocate.
Yes. This is just kind of what happens after we make a referral, because like I said, if we can't help, we'll find someone who can. We meet with the person and then assess what we need to do next, assist them in the next steps, and continue to follow up with them if that's what they want. Everything, like I said, is survivor-led. These last few slides are the on-campus resources. There's Title IX, the PCA, the Counseling Center, and Student Health Center. They are also confidential. They follow, HIPAA regulations because they're licensed counselors. There's always security, your professors, RAs, and anyone like that. They are also responsible employees, so they're required to make reports to Title IX. And then off-campus resources, there is obviously Shelter from the Storm. Bridges Oregon is a great thing that we just recently found out about. They're able to assist, so they're also advocates, but they're able to assist those with additional disabilities, people who are deaf, blind, hard of hearing, and anything like that in the state of Oregon. And then there is always the LeGrand Police Department. Mount Emily Safe Center, they primarily only deal with 17 and younger though. Shelter from the Storm, I will say, we're only able to help, is it 15 and older? We're only able to help 15 and older if it's non-familial. And then there's EOCIL, Next Step, CHD, ODHS, and then Legal Services of Oregon, it's legal aid. They're able to work on a sliding scale based off of your income to help with legal services. And then Grand Run Hospital, Neon, and that's it. And then this last slide is just some contact information. And I think that's about it, unless anyone has questions.
Woo! That was amazing. That was so informational. There's so much stuff I did not know about.
Yeah.
And I've worked here for over 3 years. Like, thank you.
You're welcome. And then if anyone wants any information on, at one point I know Colleen had mentioned strangulation. We do have pamphlets on strangulation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because of the fact it leads to, like,
Mm-hmm.
really awful.
Yes.